Welcome to the latest edition of The Blend. My name is Steve Benz, broadcasting live from downtown Chicago. We have singer-songwriter Julian Lennon as our guest. Julian, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you on. Hope things are well. I know that you are over in Europe and a very, very busy man, so thank you for finding some time for us.
My absolute pleasure. Glad to be here, as I said.
Now, the reason why, obviously, you are all over the place. You've got a brand new CD. Everything changes. My first question to you, which is probably the most important thing to me, is how's your mom?
Well, that's very kind of you to ask. She's faring okay. Sadly, her partner and husband, Noel, passed away earlier this year. It's a tough one, but she's hanging in there. And I spoke to her about an hour ago, and she's fine. She's as strong as she can be under the circumstances, but not giving up on the future in any way, shape, or form. So
right.
I'm glad to hear that she's in good spirits.
Well, that's great. My only commentary on all of that is you and I are part of a very special generation. We are part of the group that, for a lack of a better term, I was part of Reagan's America, you are part of Thatcher's England, and we're part of that generation where our moms are really very central in us becoming men.
Yes. Well, no question about that. Obviously, I don't know about your personal history, but without question, in my life, my mother was and still is, of course, everything and anything. She taught me, gave me the learning tools for me to become who I am today. And I think, for the most part, I consider myself at least a good man, a kind and generous man. And the most important thing for me, in all honesty, is to make her proud. And so, that's the key ingredient there that keeps me on the right track, so to speak.
Now, would you say, or at least your relationship with your mom, how is that reflected in this new CD, Everything Changes?
Well, I think the only thing I could say in that regard is that I try to at least put whatever commentary I have forward about life forward in its I guess its most simplest forms. And it's, for me, it's not about shouting or shoving ideas down people's throats. It's about letting letting people make their own minds up and decisions up about what's being expressed. And I think that has to be part of what Mum taught me, is that is getting whatever's inside you out of your system and being as truthful as possible with it.
Now, I'm a reflection of my mom in terms of my personality, the whole works. Is she creative like you are?
Sorry, what was that?
I'm a real reflection of my mom. Are you a reflection of your mom in terms of creativity?
Well, I guess there are parallels, no question about that. She, her whole bag in life, so to speak, was art and art college. That's where she met Dad, and my first love, probably before music or anything else, was art as well. I learned a great deal from her in that regard, and I guess, I've been fortunate enough, whether it's been in whatever medium, whether it's music and or now photography, which is one of my main. I almost feel like it's my main career at the moment. I've taken that from her, and about just believing that you can achieve things, regardless of what medium it is. So, yeah, she's always been strong that way, and always and continues to paint, draw, and sketch these days. And I think that's one way it's kind of like our way of meditating in many respects, of breathing a little bit, taking the stresses and strains out of today's world. I think art in whatever form it is a good way to do that, to sort of cleanse yourself in many respects.
Now, do you remember the first photographs that you took?
Ooh, not specifically. No, not years and years and years ago.
Right.
But I certainly remember the first photograph I took with a professional camera, so to speak, which was one that it's part of an edition. It's called First Rose, and it's actually the first rose that from the rose plant that I planted in my garden when I had my first home. So it's a lot of sentimentality into that picture in particular.
Well, is that up on your website, that picture?
Yeah, First Rose. First Rose is actually on the in the album artwork as well.
No, well, we'll have to certainly look at that, your website being julianlennon.com. My next most important question, I guess, is it's been 15 years. Where have you been?
Well, apparently there are other things to do in life aside from music or having to deal with the music industry. I didn't really know that until later in life. I just decided that my relationship with the industry itself hasn't been regarded as always good, and I've never felt it's been great. So I just decided to go off and work on other projects. I'd slogged it out with the last album on a promo tour for well over a year, and I just kind of had enough of it all and felt that there must be more to life. So I actually worked on a documentary film for 10 years, which won a few International Independent Film Awards, called Whale Dreamers, which was about indigenous tribes around the world, predominantly an Australian one. So that took a great deal, and then also a few other my interest in food and cooking and restaurants. So I'm involved in one or two bits and bobs like that. And but these have been slow projects that have that happened over the past 15 years. So it's and of course of late photography, which is my absolute passion, which I adore these days.
Now, if we just kind of look back, you start out with Velada. It's 1984. Your last CD, Photograph Smile, which I really like that CD, and then you have your new one, Everything Changes. Tell me about the evolution of who Julian Lennon is.
Well, most interesting. How can I answer that best? I think obviously age and experience has to come into that a great deal through the work that we do and through the life that we live. I definitely feel in regards to the evolution of the music or production. I mean, I love Photograph Smile too. That's I think personally, for me, there's some great songwriting on there. This album in particular was this new one, Everything Changes, which is a bit of a slow burner. It takes a little time to get into it. But for me, it was never written as an album per se initially, because it was all about getting into the fact that I couldn't leave songwriting alone. And that over the past 10 years, I've slowly been writing songs and putting ideas down. And it was literally a short while before the actual finished album that I, realized that I had enough material for another album. And I thought, well, I really like the music that I'm doing, because there was absolutely no time constraints whatsoever. It's completely independent. There was no label. There was no studio time constraints, or any other. And it was about writing music for the sake of writing music. And expressing oneself in that forum, and so it's probably the most close to home album I think that I've ever done, purely because the majority was done at home and was produced by myself and a dear friend, Grant Ransom, and it was, it was just organic and honest, and it's, as much as I love a lot of great tracks on some of the other albums, this without question is my favorite so far. It's one that I don't cringe at, but there isn't anything in my mind that feels wrong with this album. But when we look at our past work, we always think, well, maybe I could have done that better or a little differently. This is probably the first that I actually can listen through comfortably with it and be happy with it and just say, yeah, I like listening to it. I really enjoy listening to it myself.